Welcome to the channel, Duelists. You're here because you're either preparing for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Championship qualifiers, or you're fed up with the number of Fire King decks on the ranked ladder. Either way, I've got you covered with this counter guide, which obviously we're going to be talking about Fire King today. In these counter guides, I test and try techs and hand traps so you don't have to. Hopefully these cards can lead to successful recommendations and outcomes. Before we jump into the counter guide, please consider liking the video to help the channel with the YouTube algorithm by getting us onto that YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. We will cover a brief overview of the Fire King strategy, such as its playstyle and endgame, when to hand trap against the strategy. We'll also discuss the top 5 counters, the available board breakers and floodgates that will help you better your odds against this tier 1 strategy. Fire King is an archetype of Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast monsters, primarily focused on self-destruction. Fire King monsters trigger their effects when destroyed by card effects and sent to the graveyard, or when other Fire or Fire King monsters are destroyed. Their newest boss monster, Garunix Eternity, destroys all other monsters on the field when XYZ summoned and paired. When using Fire King Sanctuary, Eternity can be summoned during the opponent's turn, providing a D deck with powerful disruption. Additional key cards like Pollux, Volcanix, Fire King Sanctuary, Fire King Island, Arvada, and Kirin can lead to some amazing boards that end up with either IP Masquerena, Promethean Princess, Kirin, and additional link-up plays like Appaloosa through the use of Flameburge can really make this deck a very strong and resilient board to beat when you're playing in the competitive meta. Given the potent effects, the strategic potential, and the board presence of the Fire King archetype, timing your counter plays is crucial. So when should you use your hand traps against the Fire King strategy? I will cover that with you here. Please keep in mind when we are discussing impermanence, I also encompass Effect Veiler and Ghost Mourner because the cards are similar in objective. We will take a look at 2 combo lines for the Fire King strategy, one being the pure Fire King line and the other being the Snake Eyes line that leads to the Fire King lines. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Quick public service announcement, Maxi won't be discussed much here because I strongly agree that Maxi should always be used during the draw or standby phase because it will help avoid the triple tactics talent. Otherwise, use Maxi on the first notice of any sort of special summon. Let's jump into combo number 1, which is the Volcanix plus any fire monster in hand. If the opponent is starting with Volcanix, this means the opponent potentially did not draw into any of the Snake Eye starters. This doesn't mean anything because the Fire King line is still very potent. Your opponent will begin by normal summoning Volcanix to the board, activating its effect to destroy a fire monster to search and add a Fire King monster. At this point, Asher Infinite Impermanence is an amazing start against the Fire King strategy because Volcanix is its main starter and key searcher in the early game. If you do not Ash or Imperm the Volcanix will resolve and the opponent will add Pollux to hand. Pollux will activate in hand because a fire monster was previously destroyed to meet Volcanix's criteria, and Pollux will special summon itself to the board. On summon, Pollux will trigger to add Fire King spell or trap. If for some reason you did not Ash the Volcanix or Imperm the Volcanix, hitting Pollux with either Ash or Imperm can still be very effective. This will potentially prevent the addition of Fire King Island or Fire King Sanctuary from deck to hand. Let's say the opponent adds Fire King Sanctuary from deck to hand. Fire King Sanctuary is activated and it will place and activate Fire King Island from deck to field. Fire King Island's effect will be activated and the opponent will more than likely destroy the Volcanix on board and send it to the graveyard and add Sacred Fire King Garunix from deck to hand. At this juncture, you can Ash the Fire King Island. If not, the Sacred Fire King Garunix will trigger simultaneously to Volcanix in graveyard on resolution of Fire King Island. Sacred Fire King Garunix will be used to chain blocks Volcanix, and Volcanix will special summon High Avatar Garunix to the board. In the event the opponent misplays and does not chain blocks the Volcanix with Sacred Garunix, you should be able to Ash Volcanix at this point to prevent board escalation. However, don't count on this because typically if you're playing in the ranked ladder, there are skillful players piloting the Fire King deck. Now, on resolution of all this, you are looking at a board with Pollux, Sacred Garunix, and Avatar Garunix on board. Sacred Garunix will trigger on its summon to destroy it and send Arvada from deck to graveyard. Impermanence, Veiler, or Ghost Mourner would be effective here on the Sacred Garunix. Arvada will trigger in the graveyard and Volcanix will be special summoned to the board. This will lead the opponent to typically special summon IP
Masquerena by using Sacred Garunix and Volcanics, LinkTree by using Pollux, and then using IP Masquerena and LinkTree to bring out Promethean Queen. Promethean Queen will special summon Arvada to establish a negate and continue to link into Amphibious to set up the graveyard with Garunix, LinkTree, and Queen for the follow-up. This is it for the combo. The rest of the deck heavily relies on the Snake Eyes Diablo Star engine, which will be as if you were playing against Snake Eyes itself, only leading to the Fire King line we have discussed through the use of Poplar and Ash. Now let's briefly cover the Snake Eye combo that leads to the Fire King line discussed. Combo number 2, Snake Eyes Ash to Fire King. The opponent will begin with Snake Eyes Ash. Do not use Ash Blossom on the Snake Eye Ash because it will only stop the search for Poplar but not its effect to special summon another Snake Eye from the deck such as Oak. Therefore, use Infinite Impermanence against the Snake Eye Ash. Back to the combo, Ash will search Poplar, Poplar will trigger and special summon itself to the board and search out the original Sinful Spoils. At this point, you can imperm the Poplar to slow down the deck strategy. Snake Eyes Ash will trigger to send itself and Poplar to the graveyard to special summon the Oak. Oak triggers to special summon the Ash, and Poplar will trigger to set itself back to the board onto the Spell and Trap zone. This is a great point to use Impermanence, Veiler, or Mourner versus the Oak because this potentially stops the Flame Birch from coming out. In the event that you do not stop the Oak, Oak will use its second effect, sending itself and Poplar to the graveyard to special summon the Flame Birch from the deck to the field. The opponent will then use original Sinful Spoils to send Flame Birch to the graveyard and bring out Pollux. Flame Birch will trigger in the graveyard and Pollux will trigger on the field. Pollux gets Sanctuary and Flame Birch brings back Oak and Poplar to the board. Oak and Ash will be used to link summon Sunlight Wolf, and Poplar and Pollux will be used to link summon Doolittle Chimera under Sunlight Wolf to trigger Sunlight Wolf's effect to add Snake Eyes Ash from graveyard to hand. This is a great time to hit Sunlight Wolf with Impermanence to prevent rebuttal on your next turn. Sunlight Wolf and Chimera will link summon into a 4 material Appaloosa. Thanks to Pollux adding Sanctuary to hand, the opponent will reboot the previous combo line discussed, which is the Fire King combo line. The end board will potentially be a 4 negate Appaloosa, 1 disruption with Amphibious, and an additional negate through Arvada. These are the points on when to hand trap. These choke points can become really detrimental to the Fire King player, and it's important to be mindful. When to effectively hit a choke point will depend on your hand, the game state, and whether or not you have follow-up on the next turn. To choose which are the top 3 cards to hit with Ash and Imperm, I will rank them in order from best to suboptimal. The Ash and Impermanence targets will be Pollux if they start off with the Fire King line, or Poplar if they start off with the Snake Eye line. The second target will be Volcanics if they start off with the Fire King line, or Snake Eye Ash if they start with the Snake Eye line. Really, these are your only 4 main targets against the Fire King strategy. Anything else will be fluid to your matchup, the player skill, hand advantage, and the deck variant. Now that we've covered the choke points, when to hand trap, and which should be your primary targets, let's move on to the counters. Top 5 counters, we've got Droll and Lockbird. This is the silver bullet. Not only do Fire Kings search a significant amount on Master Duel, but the better engine to pair Fire Kings is with Diablo Star and Snake Eyes. Therefore, the obvious choice and the best choice to counter this deck is going to be Droll and Lockbird, and you'll want to activate Droll and Lockbird immediately and not wait for specific monsters' effects. Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion is your second counter to this strategy. The entire Fire King core activates in the graveyard, and in addition, the Snake Eye engine also moves cards from the graveyard. The best targets for Ghost Bell in my experience is number 1, Flamebird, Kirin, Arvada, Oak, and Garunix. As for extra deck monsters, you've got Promethean Princess and Hita, because more than likely your Ash will be used as material for this strategy. At number 3, you've got DD Crow and Called by the Grave. You've got to control the graveyard. Hit the Pollux, hit the Volcanics, hit any of the Garunix, hit the Arvada, and or hit the Kirin. You want to focus on pure graveyard control against this strategy. Also, you can totally decimate the Flamebirch as well. If you are having a hard time countering this deck and you need more graveyard control and you just can't make it work with some of the counters that we've discussed here, I've got a really spicy one that worked in the TCG, and that is Soul Release. Soul Release will kill this deck. It will end them if you can't run a D-shifter or any form of banishment tech such as a Dimensional Fissure or a Macrocosmos. Soul Release is insane. that thing will just literally eat up their graveyard, and the Fire Kings will have nothing to fall back on. It will probably lead to a scoop. And the last card on this list is going to be Cosmic Cyclone. Like most Snake Eyes decks, they rely on back row. You've got Sanctuary, you've got Fire King Island, you've got Poplar in the back, you've got IP Masquerena that can be placed back there as well. So you want to make sure that when you are destroying Fire King cards, you're not actually destroying them, you're banishing them so that you don't prevent any of their effects from going off. And if you're targeting the Snake Eyes portion of the deck, you're getting rid of them for good. Some honorable mentions for direct counters. I had tried Book of Moon. This is a spicy tech that I've been using in Subterra, and many people are not expecting it. It causes excellent prevention of XYZ and Link monsters, a great way to turn the tide and halt board escalation by preventing the Fire King combos. Abyss Dweller and Silent Graveyard. Here's the list of all the cards that activate in the graveyard: Kirin, Pollux, Arvada, Snake Eye, Poplar, Flamebirch, Wanted, Fire King, Skyburn, and so on and so forth. In addition to graveyard control, locking the opponent from graveyard is critical and will play a vital role in assisting you to victory. And the last card in the honorable mentions list for direct counters is Change of Heart. Take Garunic's Eternity for yourself, use its effect, attack, and rank into a Zeus. A solid card. It is also great for sealing control of any Link tower or for Link climbs or solely to change stances to beat down. And if you're looking for more counters, maybe this is not enough for you and you're looking to slap in an engine so that you can really just beat Fire Kings to the ground. Something that I want to incorporate into my counter guides is the best engine to tech against certain strategies, and in this situation it's going to be the Kashtira package: 1 Fenrir, 2 to 3 Unicorn, 1 to 2 Birth. Why is this a great package to consider? Because Fenrir is detrimental. It's a Floodgates. It banishes Pollux face down, Kirin, and even Garunic's. Depending on the variant, you can significantly slow down the XYZ and Link strategy of the Fire King player. Additionally, Unicorn can target towers and disruptors such as Garunic's Eternity, Little Knight, and Promethean Princess. Plus, Birth will target their graveyard, potentially ridding the opponent of access to Pollux, Snake Eye Ash, Kirin, Poplar, and other key cards. The package is also a great inclusion because it is meta covering. Test out the Kashtira ratios and see if you can find a great fit for such resilient support that you can add to your deck. Let's jump into board breakers. We got Nibiru, Kaiju Lava Golem, Frost Fear Mode, Super Polymerization, and Evenly Matched. Just your generic board breakers. I would not opt to play Lightning Storm or Dark Hole, even Raigeki, because destroying the Fire King cards are only going to promote effects in the graveyard. So you're looking for cards that get rid of the board by either banishing them or sending them to the graveyard, bypassing the destruction factor. Moving on to Floodgates, we've got Deck Lockdown, slower than Droll, but just as effective. The loss of searching and adding to hand is beyond critical and detrimental to the Fire King strategy. If the card survives on your board, you will most likely force your opponent to scoop or have them build mediocre boards. Spellbound and Dimensional Barrier, no Link and no XYZ. I feel, and this is objective to experience in my personal playstyle, that I would recommend Spellbound over Barrier this time around, mainly because most Fire King decks are being splashed with Dia Bellstar and Snake Eyes. Therefore, the combo plays are more oriented to Link and XYZ, and Dimensional Barrier does not cover Links. And the last 5 cards on the Floodgates list, you've got Different Dimension Ground, Dimension Shifter, Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, and Necro Valley. Gut them at their core. No graveyard equates to no play. Easy GG if you can trigger a draw phase shifter or keep your Floodgates active on your board. Well, there you have it, folks, a comprehensive guide on how to beat Fire Kings. If you like these forms of informational educational videos and you believe the video has helped, please feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Comments as well get the channel onto the YouTube algorithm to share the wealth with other duelists. Thank you as always. May luck, counters, and skill be on your side. And if you plan on participating in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel World Championship, expect to see a lot of Fire Kings in the mix. Good luck, duelists, and I'll see you in the qualifiers.